So in last night's show and on previous shows, we've told you about the cases of two men, Julian Assange and John Kerr. Julian Assange is a kind of international journalist. John Kerr is a former CIA officer. We should be totally blunt and tell you we're not sure we share the politics of either man. But both of their cases tell you something really important about what's going on in this country, about what matters, and about what the people in charge would like to prevent you from doing. Julian Assange and John Kerr both went to jail for telling the truth. Neither one stole classified documents from the US government. Neither one of them hacked into anything. In both cases, those men went to prison. And in both cases tonight, as one of his final acts as president, Donald Trump has the opportunity to make that right, to pardon both of them. We told you that last night. We told you it before. We're hearing tonight that neither man, particularly Julian Assange, we don't know if this is true, is likely to get a pardon. Why? Well, apparently because Republicans in the Senate, and by Republicans in the Senate we mean Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the leader of Republicans in the Senate, has sent word over to the White House, if you pardon Julian Assange, we are much more likely to convict you in an impeachment trial. Now, is it legal to hold that over a president's head? We're not lawyers, we don't know. It's certainly wrong. But more than that, it tells you everything about their priorities.
Now, I first learned about this snap election yesterday from Senator Mike Lee, who, by the way, Mike Lee, he's a great U.S. Senator, great Republican senator. He posted this survey on X. Who would you like to see as the next Senate Republican leader? Right now, Mitch McConnell is securing votes as we speak for John Thune, which would be a terrible setback, a massive setback to Trump. John Thune is Mitch McConnell's number 2. He's basically mini Mitch McConnell. He hates Trump.
Is President-elect Trump involved in, does he have a chosen preference in the Senate? Do you know, Senator? And will that come into play?
Well, I don't know that he does. I'm staying in regular contact with him and with his team. And, obviously, if he wants to, he could exert a considerable amount of influence on that. But honestly, I think my preference would be, and I think it's probably in his best interest, to stay out of that. These Senate secret ballot elections are probably best left to senators, and he's got to work with all of us when it's all said and done.
He is the opposite of MAGA, supports the Ukraine war, full stop. John Cornyn, the second option, just as bad. He was one of the chief proponents of the Democrats' border bill that Kamala Harris wouldn't stop talking about on the campaign trail. He not only endorsed it, he helped write it. Rick Scott, the third option, he's the only one out of these 3 choices who actually like Donald Trump. Now, good news, we have some good news. Last night, thank the Lord, Tucker Carlson got involved, writing this on X. What the hell is going on in the U.S. Senate? Hours after Trump wins the most conclusive mandate in 40 years, McConnell engineers a coup against his agenda by calling early leadership elections in the Senate. 2 of the 3 candidates hate Trump and what he ran on. One of them, John Cornyn, is an angry liberal whose politics are indistinguishable from Liz Cheney's. The election is Wednesday. It's by secret ballot, and it will determine whether or not the new administration succeeds. Rick Scott of Florida is the only candidate who agrees with Donald Trump. Call your senator and demand a public endorsement of Rick Scott. Don't let McConnell get away with this again. RFK Jr. piping in as well, writing this. Without Rick Scott, the entire Trump reform agenda begins to get wobbly. Isn't it amazing how McConnell's making this a secret ballot? So you can't see what your senator or who your senator's voting for? It's unbelievable. Now, I feel much better now that Tucker said something. You know it's going to at least reach the president's inner circle. After Tucker posted this, you saw Don Jr., a ton of other senators pick up on the fact that Rick Scott is the popular candidate. Basically, pick Rick Scott is going viral right now. Let's hope the Senate Republicans listen. And this fight doesn't stop with the Senate, folks. The next few weeks are going to be critical, absolutely critical in determining if Trump will be successful over the next 2 to 4 years. Transitions are chaotic. The president-elect needs to hire thousands beyond thousands of people. He's conducting interviews all day long for different positions, and you're already seeing the swamp creatures burrowing themselves into the fold. It's crazy how this machine works. Each time I see this, I try to point it out on X. For example, the worst possible pick for Secretary of Defense somehow, don't ask me how, managed to get an interview yesterday with Donald Trump. Watch this.
Mike Rogers of Alabama is being considered for Secretary of Defense.
Chanley Painter joins us live in studio with more. Chanley.
Hey, good morning, Will, Pete, and Rachel. So President-elect Trump's transition team already vetting potential candidates to fill his cabinet come January. A source to Fox Digital confirming that Congressman Mike Rogers, a Republican from Alabama who serves as chairman of the Armed Services Committee, has been contacted by Trump's team for the Secretary of Defense position. And other potential candidates include Florida Representative Mike Walz and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
Now, why is Mike Rogers so awful? Well, let me try to break this down quickly. I'll do it real fast. There's this hierarchy in Congress, okay? A lot of people assume all congressmen are created equal, that all 535 members are more or less the same. It's not true. There's a hierarchy. You have the Senate Majority Leader, the Senate Minority Leader, the Speaker of the House, then the Minority Leader in the House. Then you have the chairmen of each of the committees. That makes up a few dozen congressmen who have elevated access and clearance, and they make the rules. Then you have the 8 people who sit on top. You have the Gang of 8. And you wouldn't think so, but those 8 members of Congress have significant power in the U.S. government. They have the highest of clearance levels. They're legally allowed to be read into all special access programs and even TSSCI clearance level programs for oversight purposes. They can do that on request. No one else in Congress has anywhere near that kind of access. They can know just about anything that they want, again, on request. And Mike Rogers is one of them because he's the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, a very powerful committee chair. That chairman's seat puts him in that 8-member club, the Gang of 8. And you won't see Marjorie Taylor Greene or Lauren Boebert or any of those MAGA people being given that chairman job. None of those 8 members are MAGA loyal. But Mike Rogers, Mike Turner are both the worst of the worst. They are bought and paid for by the military-industrial complex. You can look up Mike Rogers' donors, his top donors, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, all big aerospace companies. He was one of the principal members who killed the UFO Disclosure Act last year. Now, watch this next clip and tell me what would happen if Trump were to put someone like Mike Rogers, who's bought and paid for by the military-industrial complex, in the Secretary of Defense seat. Roll the tape.
On discussions at the Pentagon. I don't know at what level this is. It just seems like it's informal discussions. I guess it's understandable they would have those discussions. It also, Scott, is it?
Look, I don't like this because what's Donald Trump supposed to think? You know, he's sitting down there, he's the president-elect, and now he's got to read in the newspaper tonight that the unelected bureaucracy of the federal government is having meetings at some level about how to thwart or countermand the commander-in-chief. I don't care if it's at the Pentagon or at the HUD or Ag Department. It doesn't matter. The unelected bureaucracy of this government answers to the civilian and duly elected leadership that we just did. And what if you were in his shoes and you just won the popular vote with a clear mandate, and now you got to read that these unelected bureaucrats are plotting against you? What would you think? If
but
they
I
have problems,
let me
finish. If they have problems, they should not have meetings that then leak to the press. If they have ideas or things, they should call the president's office and say, hey, we'd like to have some discussions for planning purposes. But secret meetings that leak, terrible way to get off to a start with the new administration.
Well, I agree that that's maybe not the best way to do it. However, Trump has set them up to be in this situation where they think that he's coming after them.
He has to buck the system here and nominate someone like Tulsi Gabbard as Secretary of Defense. That's just my opinion. And luckily, online, MAGA has been making their voices heard on this issue, trying to point out the people who should not get anywhere near Donald Trump's administration. And it looks like it's working. Last night, got some good news. Donald Trump posted this: I will not be inviting Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo, good riddance, to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation. I very much enjoyed and appreciated working with them previously and would like to thank them for their service. MAGA, make America great again. Booyah. Now that's a great start, but there are so many of these swamp monsters, it's hard to even tell them apart. Realize the House has largely been purged of these establishment type Republicans, but the Senate's still filled with them. In another story, Wall Street is celebrating this Trump victory, with the Dow rallying over 1,400 points almost on Wednesday after it was clear that Trump would be the 47th president. But not everyone's celebrating Trump's victory. In the finance space, for instance, Chairman of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell, he is angry as hell.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
Do you believe the president has the power to fire or demote you, and has the Fed determined the legality of a president demoting at will any of the other governors with leadership positions?
Not permitted under the law.
All right, that wraps up the news part of today's video. Now I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor, which ties directly into what we were just talking about, and quite possibly the cheapest gold exposure that we can get our hands on as of today anywhere in the world as far as I'm aware. The company is called Gold Mining Inc., trading on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol GLDG. You can see it on your screen. They are the sponsor of today's video, Gold Mining Inc., right now trading for 86 cents a share, which is near its 5-year low. This is a very important part of the reason that I'm even showcasing this right now. Think about it. Spot gold trading at an all-time high. Gold stock ETFs like the GDXJ and the GDXU trading near 52-week highs, yet Gold Mining Inc.'s still near its 5-year low. And I've said this before, I don't think there's ever been a better moment to build a position in gold companies than in November 2024. It's indisputable. The gold spot price currently $26.98 an ounce as I record this, over 40% above the 2011 all-time high, yet the GDXJ index is down 66% compared with its peak from 2011. How is that even possible? And as you know, Bank of America is predicting gold could hit $3,000 an ounce by the end of 2025. Meanwhile, Gold Mining Inc. is trading near its 5-year lows. So let's talk about Gold Mining Inc.'s near-term catalyst. The company, they own 80% of an Alaskan gold exploration and development company, U.S. Gold Mining Inc. It's a position that's currently worth around $80 million US. The company's in the middle of a drill program right now, folks. And you know what happens when companies announce drilling results, right? The company owns a $30 million position USD in Gold Royalty Corp based on its closing price. This is one of the fastest growing royalty companies in the natural resource sector. Gold Mining Inc. also owns 75% of a uranium project that gets almost zero attention, even though the founder of the company and its present co-chairman is Mr. Amir Adani, the founder of Uranium Energy Corp. I'm sure you've heard about that. Multi-billion-dollar uranium company. Think about that for a second. The project, located in the Athabasca Basin in Alberta, Canada, one of the best uranium areas around the globe, and it's co-owned with French uranium giant Orano. Now, here's a snapshot of Gold Mining Inc.'s value proposition. I want to showcase this quickly, less than a minute if you'll let me, so you see why I'm so bullish on this company. GLDG market cap, $175 million right now. That's what the entire company costs presently, publicly on the market. Current market value of their ownership stake of USGO, $95 million. Current market value stake of their ownership in GROY, $35 million, bringing the enterprise value, ready for this, $175 million minus $95 million minus $35 million equals a $55 million enterprise value. Like what? When the company originally acquired their dozen gold projects, the peak combined market caps of those companies that held them was approximately 850 million Canadian. So the peak market cap of companies acquired was 850 million in 2010 to 2012, yet the owns a total of 11 projects containing an estimated 12.5 million ounces of gold equivalent resources in the measured and indicated category, and an additional estimated 9.7 million ounces of gold equivalent resource in the inferred category. That's with a market cap currently at 175 million and approximately 120 mil in publicly traded stock in its coffers based on current market values. Again, Gold Mining Inc. I find to be one
unsanitary nightmares surrender to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged. We're making many suffer for the whims of a deeply unwell few, and they are unwell indeed. The homeless have no right to turn every park and sidewalk into a place for them to squat and do drugs. Americans should not have to step over piles of needles and waste as they walk down a street, a beautiful city, or at least once beautiful city, because they've changed so much over the last 10 years. Our first consideration should be the rights and safety of the hardworking, law-abiding citizens who make our society function. When I'm back in the White House, we will use every tool, lever, and authority to get the homeless off our streets. We want to take care of them, but they have to be off our streets. There is nothing compassionate about letting these individuals live in filth and squalor rather than getting them the help that they need. We need professionals to help them. For a small fraction of what we spend upon Ukraine, we could take care of every homeless veteran in America. Our veterans are being treated horribly.
Hey, let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? I love that. For a fraction of what we've given Ukraine, we could take care of every veteran and homeless person in America.
Likewise, with all of the money we will save by ending mass unskilled migration, we will have a huge dividend to address this crisis in our own country. Under my strategy, working with states, we will ban urban camping wherever possible. Violators of these bans will be arrested, but they will be given the option to accept treatment and services if they're willing to be rehabilitated. Many of them don't want that, but we'll give them the option. We will then open up large parcels of inexpensive land, bring in doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists, and create 10 cities where the homeless can be relocated and their problems identified. But we'll open up our cities again, make them livable and make them beautiful. For those who are just temporarily down on their luck, we will work to help them quickly reintegrate into a normal life. For those who have addictions, substance abuse, and common mental health problems, we will get them into treatment. And for those who are severely mentally ill and deeply disturbed, we will bring them back to mental institutions where they belong, with the goal of reintegrating them back into society once they are well enough to manage. It's a tough task, a very tough task. What's taken place on the streets, what's taken place with their taking so much drugs. But the fact is, we're going to try. This strategy will be far better and also far less expensive than spending vast sums of taxpayer money to house the homeless in luxury hotels without addressing their underlying issues. And they have so many of these underlying issues and needs. This is how I will end the scourge of homelessness and make our cities clean and safe and beautiful once again. We will do it. We will bring back America.